All right, lots of drama. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The final portion of the show, the look at WWE's WrestlePalooza. An extravaganza like no other, meaning it was hard to find because you didn't know where to find it. Or you did know and it was a pain in the ass. From Indianapolis, Jim, WrestlePalooza.
Indianapolis, Indiana, baby. Well, they had about 15,000 plus people up there, according to the incomparable Michael Cole. And to make sure that I was getting this show, I tuned in. I should have turned in. I tuned in about 15 minutes early and I caught on their pregame show, and they played it later, but the Brock Cena package was incredible. That was a piece of art, especially not only the editing, but when you sit Brock down and do a sit down with him and get sound bites, that's the best use of Brock speaking. The longer he goes, the more the aura diminishes. But that's the whole thing about this, the WWE in general, and this particular WrestlePalooza show. The quality of the production from a technical standpoint as a television product is light years ahead of what AEW does or can do. And a lot of that truthfully masks the fact that WWE, while AEW again does way too much, WWE just the bare minimum that they have to. But it's just presented in such a big time way. The God Bless America by the War and Treaty, I don't know what they won a Grammy for, but I know them from a diabetes commercial. But it's not, I mean, this show is just, you can tell they've got their shit together as professionals. And the history package between where they juxtapose the history of ESPN and the history of the WWF and how they're both renegades, and nice to see Styx getting a check, but the music fit. And Triple H doing the voiceover written especially for him. The editing is amazing. And did you notice, Brian, when they showed Vince on the package, he got a pop in the building.
That sound, that pop, was him crashing into someone on the Merritt Parkway, I believe.
Well, no, you would have heard a little glass breaking after the fact. But anyway, the package, amazing editing. And the point was, sports is entertainment. Always has been, always will be. And then suddenly the lights go up and there's Triple H in the ring with the white ropes and the whole color scheme. Welcome to the final form of sports and entertainment. And they blow off pyro, and it's a big time show, and they don't sound like do-it-yourself announcers, and they don't do shit that doesn't look like it's supposed to when it didn't work in rehearsal because they didn't rehearse it. They don't build fake rooms to break through fake walls. This is anyhow. And then the truck pulls in, and it's Pat McAfee in Indianapolis. Imagine that. And he gets the big entrance, the big hometown pop, and the McAfee chant. And I don't know why he only stayed the first 3 matches. Did he have is he on home incarceration? He's got to be in by 9, or what was the deal there?
I don't know.
But otherwise, that added something for the people in Indianapolis, and McAfee's a name from, television, as seen on TV.
Maybe to prepare for Sunday. It's, at the NFL.
Well, Jesus Christ. He's already sitting there and he couldn't stay 2 more hours. Nevertheless, it's time for Brock and Cena. And here comes Brock, and he's fucking massive. And I mean, just giant sized. And boom, he gets in the ring, and they wait and they milk and they get the Cena chance. And the music plays, and it's the big pop. And here comes Cena out with 50 little kids dressed just like him in the t-shirt and the cap and the Brian, I'm not that familiar with children. How old would you say the age ranges of those children were? You are familiar with children.
The age range, I don't know, anywhere from
how old are they when they're about
7 to 14? I don't know.
Well, they were about 12 inches on either side of 3 feet tall apiece. Wouldn't you say that's an accurate representation?
My first thought was, where are their parents? You know, there's a lot of kids there. It's a lot of kids. Where are all those parents?
And boy, I tell you what, just for liability's sake, if a couple of those kids had gone off the reservation and gone rogue and run down that ramp, we'd have had all kinds of shit going on. But anyhow, so they gave the statistic. Cena and Brock are 1-1 in the WWE, at least. And Cena's got 99 pay-per-view wins, and you just knew this was going to be number 100. So they got the Let's Go Cena chants going on, and they have the in-ring introduction. Cena gets his big intro, and old weird hair starts to turn and announce Brock, and suddenly, ladies and gentlemen, it's Happy Heyman. And he's on the apron and gives Brock the big intro. The former UFC champion, undisputed, blah, 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 blah. The last real ass kicker, Brock Lesnar. How does Paul get away with doing that at his age, in his condition, where he can just do that and not keel over? But it already had the big fight feel, and that was the thing people wanted, to be honest. Even though everybody's a heel, you wanted to hear that introduction. And they set it up on SmackDown, didn't they, the night before, when Brock walked past Heyman and said, we got to talk.
Yeah. And then the next night, you got this.
Yeah, that conference led to an introduction. But then they rang the bell. And I've got to say that I am somewhat astonished. And I will give my thoughts on this thing. It started the way that I knew it should, and it probably would, that Brock was all over him. And the people are chanting, let's go Cena, but it's the clotheslines and the turnbuckles and the power slam and the clothesline and a German. He's really kicking the shit out of Cena. Then John fires back up and gives him the tackles, and finally Brock takes a bump and 2 attitude adjustments, and the fans are going batshit, and then 3 attitude adjustments. Well, the third, not 3 more. And he gets a 2 count. But then he goes to do the you can't see me and runs off the ropes right into a fucking F5. And then Brock picks him up and gives him a second F5. And Cena's selling, and Brock picks him up and gives him a third F5. And Cena's selling, and Brock's taking his time, a fourth F5. And he takes his time, a fifth F5. And he takes his time, a sixth F5. And he covered him 1, 2, 3. It wasn't 10 minutes. So that was interesting. And then Brock came back in, F5 the referee, and then gave Cena another F5 and left. And Cena finally got up, and he wanted to walk out under his own power, and he milked and got the thank you Cena chants and the big cheers. But they're obviously going to bring this back, one would think. Is this his retirement match where he gets some type of redemption? Was that the deal they made with Brock before they brought him back? You're 1-1 with Cena. Let's go 1-1, and you'll end up 2-2.
And you'll be the last match?
Because otherwise, why would they didn't need Brock and Cena to save this show, because really the interest was the mixed tag. And yes, this was a big headline match, but why would Brock is over. Brock doesn't need to destroy John Cena to be over enough to face anybody else. So to destroy Cena in a big major event like this, in his last match in Indianapolis and one of his last matches in the company, now that they've just course corrected and made him a babyface as he should have been, and everybody's supposed to feel good from here on out, I think this has to be the setup for the last one where he gets his redemption and fights back against the monster that he wasn't ready for. Because otherwise, they just kind of made people feel flat. And why did Brock need this to face anybody else that they might want to book him with after Cena's retired? Is my question.
You know, what I was thinking about too is Heyman. Heyman and Lesnar feels right. Brock never seems happier than when he's bouncing around while Heyman talks about him.
Yeah.
That's the biggest smile I've ever seen on Lesnar's face. I've seen it several times while Heyman's just talking about him. It works. And it's a cool moment for the fans, for Heyman to reveal himself. I don't know how he snuck to ringside. But for Heyman to reveal himself.
Actually, they had a piano crate with a sheet over it on wheels. And while nobody was looking, they pushed it to ringside and got a crane from AAA to take the top off.
Well, I don't know how he got there, but all of a sudden Heyman was there. A cool moment. Fans reacted to it. Beyond that, did he do anything to actually help his heel charge?
No, he left. He didn't even stay.
Yeah. He just introduced him.
Yeah, that was, and that's what they wanted. And I can see that. A little wink, wink. But no, if they want to book Brock with anybody else after Cena's gone, this didn't aid in that because Brock doesn't need to be any more over. The only thing this would aid in is a return match where Cena says I just got to see if I can do this. So we shall see.
Is that a good final match? And if you know you're going there, it gives you a little bit of time to build, even though you have some stuff in between. Cena having to overcome Brock Lesnar, is that a good final match? And Cena would have to win that, right?
Well, yes. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, don't you know, Jim, it's the wrestling protocol. They should do a job on the way out. When you're leaving the territory, yes. Not when you're leaving the goddamn business. That's why I've had the gripe with Cena being a heel for much of this is that we said from the start, people didn't want to boo him. People wanted to see the last time and, their hero that they like now more than they did when he was actually their fucking hero. And now that they've got it course corrected, again, that it just doesn't make sense. A lot of people would say, well, should Cena have put over a young heel that's going to be there full time? Again, yeah, if it wasn't billed as his retirement tour, this is the last time you get to see him. I think especially the very last time, it's a feel-good moment. It's not just somebody putting somebody over because they're leaving. It's they're done forever. And I mean, there's always circumstances and context that would change your mind. But I think potentially what they've done is with this, they've said, okay, we can build Brock up and Brock can beat Cena because it's believable. And then we can build a return match where Cena gets his win back and Cena doesn't have to beat another of our full-time fucking guys on the roster. And at the same time, who do they want to see right now on the full-time roster that would benefit from beating John Cena that's not already over, that would get over just because he beat John Cena?
Austin Theory.
Oh, gee, is he still there?
I don't know where he is.
Where the fuck did he go?
Remember, he beat Cena. That was going to make him after Cena tore him apart in a promo.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think, this is probably the thing to do. But nevertheless, that's what happened with poor old John Cena when he just got took apart and put back together like a ransom note at the hands of Brock Lesnar, followed by a 3.5 minute commercial break, followed by a Saudi Arabia plug, followed by a WrestleMania in Las Vegas plug, followed by a merchandise plug, followed by a plug for Hulk Hogan's beer.
Well, Jim, when you hear about all those plugs, you may say, how do these businesses operate? Some businesses are always looking for the right partner to get going in an online sense. What a bizarre setup, but it kind of works. Jim, we know someone who helps us with our online store, and they can help the listeners as well, our friends at Shopify.
Are you tired, ladies and gentlemen, of looking at one commercial after another? Why don't you just listen to us do a commercial? That'll cheer you up. I'll tell you again, John Cena, if he gets a shit kicked out of him by Brock Lesnar like that one more time, he might be ready to get in a whole new line of work even earlier than he intended to. There you go. He needs to make some money. And if he's going to retire at the end of the year, he's got to have something to fall back on. I'm worried about John. I don't know if he's planned for his future. But folks, you can plan for your future right now by bringing your future into your present and making it a thing of the past. You'll just make so much money you won't even worry about whether that makes sense or not, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States is responsible for Shopify, or vice versa, the other way around. It's probably more than that now. We've been saying 10% for a while. You know, their tentacles are expanding everywhere. But they can get you started, yes, with dinging and bells ringing for me and my gal. They can get you started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates that they can help you use to build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, accelerate your content creation, write product descriptions, enhance product photography. Now, like I said, they've got that X-ray camera that you can take a picture and they just strips the clothes right off whoever's in that picture, and you can see their nasty bits.
They don't have that. That don't exist. You shouldn't want something like that. Mind your own business. Look at the nasty bits of the people that invite you to do so. And of course, we invite you to work with Shopify.
And best yet,
oh yeah,
Shopify. Yes, better than the nasty bits. Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping. That's getting to be a big pain in the ass these days, but if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. And of course, that's not selling in a wrestling sense where you're going to be screaming in pain and anguish. That's selling in the sense that you're going to give a bunch of people things and they're going to give you money for it. You're going to just live a happy life, and you can turn your big business idea into cha-ching, 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 to that stuff right there with Shopify on your side by right now signing up for your $1 a month trial period to start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. That code there will get you that $1 a month trial period so you can start your way down your path to prosperity. You'll be farting through silk. You'll be shitting in tall cotton. You will be the master of your own domain with Shopify.com/JCE. And you'll hear the cha-ching, cha-ching. You'll hear that.
You'll hear that. Why is pissing in tall cotton a good thing as opposed to...
No, shitting in tall cotton.
Oh, is that what you said? Shitting in tall
yes.
cotton?
Yeah, because if you're cotton short, well, then it gets shit on a lot. But if you're shitting in tall cotton, well, then it ain't going to get shitty because it's already going to be full grown and tall. You can cut it down and sell it that way. You know, when them cotton balls get rotten, you can't pick very much cotton. Them old cotton fields back home where I come from.
Once again, Shopify.com/Cornet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it a shot.
It's not going to happen.
It's going to happen one of these days. But
It's
Jim,
not going to happen. Yes.
Let's return to beautiful tropical Indianapolis for WWE WrestlePalooza.
Well, and this was the big reunion of the Usos, the former great tag team that is split apart when one of them got a chance to be a main event guy and the other one they've been doing everything they can to keep him afloat. But now it means something that they're back together because it's been a couple of years. And they took on Paul Heyman's number one tag team combination in his stable, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. And they made LA Knight the special referee because he has been having these various issues with all parties, except he kind of likes Jimmy Uso. So they added that late, the special referee thing. I don't know whether somebody had a fucking idea or whatever. But nevertheless, again, this is a big time visuals they did. The Usos entrance. They even had them come out and cut the music and had Jimmy cut the promo to pep the people up with the cell phone spotlights so that they could do the big entrance, and everybody's waving and got the lights and the music and they got their video. And of course, it all took forever. But then after they got that business out of the way, Heyman come down with the Heyman come down. Sound like Uncle Harold now. And then Heyman come down from the old Mulholland place. Heyman came down with his boys. And this is what I was saying again. I'll just say it real quick one more time. If you have a regular tag team composed of guys that are seen as by the fans as main event level talent, and Braun Breaker is, and Bronson Reed is there now, and Jey Uso definitely, and Jimmy to some extent, it gets people interested in tag team matches again. But they need to do things like this. And this was not a classic tag team match by any stretch of the imaginations, because the Usos are not a good working tag team in the ring. They're sloppy as shit, but they have the personality. It's like two Jimmy Valiants teaming up in the Carolinas in the early 80s. So they get by with that. But otherwise than that, it was a tag team match that people wanted to see the baby faces win. They have the match. Boom, boom, boom. And suddenly, they were kicking it into high gear and everybody was hitting everything. And Jay hit his splash. And then Jay grabbed the chair, and of course they still have relaxed rules over here, even in this company. They can't have a match without chairs and tables and shit. But Jay pulls out the chair and whacks Braun Breaker over the back, and Braun's so solid, and Jay leaned forward. The chair bounced right back and immediately smacked Jay in the goddamn head and busted him open. He's gushing blood. And
how about that?
I'm like, what the fuck? But just let that be a lesson to all the prospective young wrestlers out there. When you hit somebody that's pretty solid with a fucking chair, don't lean over forward with it. Give yourself some fucking space. Because the spot that the heel does every once in a while where he swings the chair and the guy moves and he hits the top rope and the chair flies back, that comes from real life. I've seen it happen for a shoot too. So anyway, he busts himself open. And then I don't know if they were going to do anything else there at that point, but you heard LA Knight, he saw him bleeding and he looked over, and then he goes over to Braun Breaker and he says, go to the spear, because you can hear it on the tape. And then he speared fucking Jay while he's bleeding. And then they kicked it in, speared both the Usos through the fucking table in the ring. And then Braun splash. Blonde splash. Blonde splash splashed. Reed come off the top rope on one of them. 1, 2, 3. That's what happened. So they may have got out of there a little quicker because Jay was losing blood by the gallon.
Yeah. The Blondells look good. The Usos, we'll see what happens with Jey Uso's face. And obviously, they lost, so you would think this isn't the end of this, but we'll see what happens with Jey Uso's face first. And they're putting them over big. And even when they came out, I don't know if you noticed, they had matching leather jackets. They're looking more and more like a team.
That's the thing, is that you need to create two individual guys, but they look good together and they have connection in their matches where they don't have to double team like the Midnight Express, but they have to have some ability to work together, which they do. And they need to be seen as main event level guys. I'd put the fucking tag team belts on Reed and Breaker because they're useless now. But as on Reed and Breaker, that's gold for them to carry. It's something for them to brag about. And they can beat all the other teams. It doesn't hurt anything. And then they can have this program with the Usos, who are 18 million time tag team champions. And it might elevate it a little bit and get something out of the tag team belts that are just wallowing in obscurity.
If they got a little bit of a run with the tag belts, not like a 2-week thing and they drop them, but a little bit of a run with them, it would do more to establish those belts or reestablish them than anything else, because there's no other team in that company that if they held the belt for 8 months, it would mean something. They would tell you it meant something, but it wouldn't mean anything to the fans.
Well, because all they'd been doing is defending it in the second preliminary match against guys that ain't over. Anyhow, you know what was next, don't you, Brian?
I do. Yes.
Would you like to tell the people what was next?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it the women's championship match?
Yes, it was.
It was Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer for the held up women's Is it the women's or the WWE? Which,
Well, see, now don't ask me.
Women's World or WWE Women's.
The Women's World. And Wayne's World. Party on. Excellent. See, I'm about to ask you some questions because you, the first thing you asked me, did you watch Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer? And I said, on a day of 10 hours of back-to-back nonstop wrestling, you're going to ask me, and oh, come on, it was a great match. Stephanie's great. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good wrestling match where they performed wrestling moves correctly and might have even been exciting for the audience that was already sitting there. But let me ask you a couple questions, Brian. What personal animosity, personal issue is between these two young ladies that necessitated me seeing this match?
There is no personal issue. It is a battle for a held-up championship.
And normally in wrestling, well, there's nothing wrong with that. A cold match, but for a world championship, well, that could still be important, except how many women's world titles are there in the WWE system right now? You just asked.
Women's
Is it
world.
the WWE women's title or women world title or NXT title or?
I don't know if NXT is worlds. At least it's NXT Women's Champion, and then there's, of course, the World Champion and the WWE. Yeah. Or maybe it's just Raw and SmackDown. I'm not exactly sure how it works. Now there's Intercontinental, but that's not world.
Yeah.
That's
well, it is not the world, but it's a belt.
It's just all the land, all the continents. That's all it is. I think there's tag belts. But again,
we don't even need to get into the tag team situation, but basically there's multiple single women's championships in the company. This is for a vacant one that was vacated by Naomi, the one we were interested in when she got pregnant.
Well, Jimmy Uso was interested in her too. That's the issue.
Well, unfortunately, he got there first. But now we've got two young ladies fighting each other just to see who's going to get the belt that the other girl gave up when she got knocked up. And what really blistering fireball, bring down the heavens promos have Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky cut here lately or in their careers that makes me want to listen to them talk me into the building and see this match?
I can't say anything about Io Sky's promos doing that for you. I think Stephanie Vaquero, that hasn't really been the direction for her to do that. It's been more promos to establish her personality and who she is as you watch her dominate and beat everyone and have a quick rise.
Would you say that her promos are of the level of, oh, I don't know, maybe even not, let's say not Becky Lynch, but even a fucking Bianca or a Rhea?
I don't think we've seen that from her yet. They are enjoyable because she has an accent, so it's a very pleasant accent to listen to her talk.
Okay.
But no, I would not compare her to the promos of the women trained in the WWE system right now.
So basically, you wanted me to watch a match between two girls that don't do good promos and don't have a personal issue.
Right.
And are fighting over one of the various miscellaneous women's championships that neither one of them even holds, that they're just fighting over it because the other one that we were interested in, as we mentioned before, had to go on maternity leave in the middle of 10 hours straight of wrestling, and they're going to go 20 minutes. And then at the end of the match, they shake hands, hug, and bow to each other. So the answer is no. I'm not going to do that because I don't care. And I'm not saying that Io Sky can't do a lot of great wrestling moves. I just don't care. And to be quite honest, since the business that was attracted to the show was primarily because of Becky Lynch and AJ Lee, I would have kept Stephanie and Io off the show entirely so that Becky and AJ, as the only females on the show, were that much more special. Because not one single person tuned in because Stephanie was wrestling Io. But while Lesnar and Cena was a big thing, and Cody and Drew are stars, and the Usos getting back together was an attraction, the business of this show was the mixed tag match. Why put girls in to go 20 minutes before you got more girls coming out that we paid to see?
Well, again,
that's why I didn't watch this match.
It's not a one girls match per show company, and it hasn't.
Well, but it would keep them more fucking special. Well, this was not needed. Who gave a shit?
Well, it was a good match. The fans got into it. Spectacular finish. One of the most spectacular finishes I've ever seen. She hit, I don't even know what you would call it. They called it something like a corkscrew moonsault. As fast as you've ever seen it, she hit it perfectly. And then rolled her up in a way, too. She hooked her leg with her legs. It was immaculate. It was so good. Stephanie Vaquero, watch out Rhea Ripley. Stephanie Vaquero is really, really, really good. Really, I understand you hate Io Sky, and
I don't hate her.
All of her future children and anyone else in her family, but
number one, it was a wonderful fucking flippy thing off the top rope. I wouldn't have been laying there underneath that thing. There was not very much margin for error at all. But I don't think Rhea Ripley has to watch out for anything unless Stephanie Vaquero suddenly learns how to fucking act like a movie star and cut a goddamn incredible promo. Because this is wrestling. We need to want to see you fight, not just go out and hop around. Everybody's doing that these days. But that was my summation of I'm sorry.
Really good match. Really good match.
I'm sure it was. Why do I care? I'll tell you what I cared about the next match, because that was the one and that's where they made the mistake Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what, I think more people cared about Stephanie Vaquero versus Io Sky than cared about Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre on this card.
I think you're correct in the way that it came across on television. That's why I think they should have put Cody and Drew before the mixed tag, because it was a letdown. It's not they don't like Cody, and it's not that Drew's not a star. there wasn't that big of a pressing issue between them that they've been working on and building up lately. But while there was nothing the matter with the match, it couldn't match the mixed tag. That's what they came to see. And they knew the Cena and Lester was already done. And now the mixed tag, and they're fucking tired. And here comes this match, and they're going to be polite. But that's what it was. It was a polite response. Mixed tag should have gone on last.
Well, speaking of which, Jim,
yes,
the big match, I would say the biggest match on the show, no disrespect to Brock and Cena, but I think this is the match that the show kind of felt like it was built around. The return of AJ Lee to the ring as part of this intergender tag team feud amongst couples. Where's Chuck Woolery when you need him?
Well, what about not Chuck Woolery, but who was it? Jim Lang, the host of the Dating Game. Now, Seth and Becky came out. They were lowered on a platform in purple spaceman outfits. And again, remember what I said. Now that Becky is with Seth, Heyman doesn't need to go out twice a night. Heyman can concentrate on the bronze, and Seth has somebody. In singles matches, I think it would be good if Becky goes with Seth. They can all talk together. They can be in group interviews. But this breaks it up a little bit and establishes subgroups within the whole collective. Anyway, they got them chanting CM Punk, and then suddenly, Mussolini and AJ Lee.
Oh.
See how it works there?
Hey, I mean, it could have worked. I don't know what you did.
Well, Punk came out, it's clobbering time, and they faded into AJ Lee's music and got a big pop. And as much as I like Cult of Personality, I guess it does fit better for her to fucking light it up or whatever it is. Is that a real pop group, or is that some Jim Johnston concoction from years ago?
I don't know.
Do we know this?
It may be the post-Jim Johnston period. I don't know. It sounds AI, but it's before AI. I don't know what it is, but it was the right move. You know, also, Punk, when he came out, his jacket said AJ's husband, I think.
Yes.
So it's all about her. It's a return match.
And that's the thing, is that these people are smart. They're smart to the business. They know what the fuck they're doing. What did I say beforehand? I said the people ain't going to want to see AJ and Becky start hip toss, drop down, arm drag, wrestling stuff. They want to see them fight. And they also milked it from the start because the people want to see the women fight. So milk it as long as you can. Don't let them in together. The babyface girl would want the heel girl, but the heel don't want any of it. And there's cheap shots and taunting and running and tagging, and you build the anticipation. And then Seth and Punk can do the spots around it and react and have the match that leads to the brief milking of the interaction. And for a while, Punk worked on Seth, and he established the axe handles off the top rope and everything. And then they cut fucking Punk off with Becky, shot the knee in the back, and they got some heat on Punk, and they took their time because they were having a smart match that built and was laid out. Becky would get the cheap shots. Punk was milking the tag. He's got to get and when you think about it, he's trying to tag this 110-pound girl, but that would save him because they're telling a story. And Seth kept blocking him. And then they did a false tag. A false tag is the terminology where the baby faces actually do tag, but it's behind the referee's back and the referee doesn't see it. So he turns around and puts AJ out while the heels get their heat from behind. This is Wrestling 101. And then finally, Seth went for a dive in the corner, but he missed it. And Punk went for the tag, but Becky had pulled AJ off the apron. So they get more heat on Punk. They're really milking this thing. And finally, Seth is skipping around like AJ, trying to mocking her, and he skips right into a go to sleep, but Punk can't cover because he's had the shit kicked out of him. He goes for the tag. Becky tried to stop it, but they make the tag. And now the girls are in, and AJ hits the Thez press and the punches, and they have a fight. And she kicks the shit out of Becky Lynch. Her punches in the corner need some work. But it's been 10 years. Maybe there's a little rust there. And they have the crossbody and the 2 count, the big slap fight. And then AJ turns around and slaps Seth. And DDT's Becky, and they double team Becky. And then now it's kicking up a notch. Now this is what they built for, and the people came to see this. So boom, they're giving it to them. But it's not preposterous. They're not just kicking out of goddamn sledgehammer shots to the fucking head. Punk and AJ both did the Bulldogs. And then AJ got her hold. What is the Black Widow? And Punk got his sharpshooter. And then AJ got a Black Widow on Seth and got a big pop. And then Becky suplexed AJ, and the heels hit twin pedigrees. They kept this thing fucking going where it made sense. But there was a little interaction with the girls and the guys, not the distasteful kind, but it wasn't like unnatural where everybody was standing around trying to figure out what they should do because they'd backed themselves into a corner. And at one point, Punk gave the stomp to Seth. But then later on, Becky got a sharpshooter on Punk. But then Punk rolled through and started to get her. It wasn't like a domestic dispute, but you're reversing a hold on a woman. But Seth came in with a pedigree and a stomp, and AJ made a save. And again, then they got in the middle, had a 4-way hockey fight, and the baby faces cleared the announce desks off. And Punk was going for a GTS standing on the desk on Seth, but Becky threw AJ into Punk, and they took a hell of a bump on the desk with it all falling and collapsing. And finally, that left the girls to get back in the ring. Becky went for the manhandle slam, but AJ spun around her into the Black Widow thing, and Becky tapped, which is the only finish they could have done for this match. Now, I'm not saying she had a tap, but she had a beater. And the people were going crazy for this shit. It made sense. It told a story. The people involved were over. The issue was personal, and the people understood it. This is fucking wrestling. Why is it so hard to understand? I yield the floor.
It was all right. Again, I haven't been really,
it was okay, dog.
I haven't been really into this whole, thing for a variety of reasons, but I thought it was all right.
Compared to what else we're watching now.
Well, compared to now, I'm comparing it to, Ever. But
you can't do that no more because Ever is a very long time.
What I didn't like was just the stuff of like Punk selling for Becky. I get that it equals, what, is going on there or whatever it is.
Well, but it was plausible. She wasn't picking him up and vertical suplexing him.
I don't think it's plausible that she could hold him in a sharpshooter or whatever. I personally don't think that's plausible. So that's my biggest complaint.
I gotta tell you.
You think Becky Lynch could hold him in a sharpshooter if he was trying to force his way out?
With the right technique and having got it and got it good, I'm just wondering if not like she had it in this match, but if you got it for a shoot, got it good and leaned back on it, I'm wondering.
I don't think she could. Natty Neidhart, maybe. But I don't think Becky Lynch could. So to me, that suspended disbelief a little too much. AJ,
that's why she did through and reversed it.
The move AJ was doing at least works because it looks like something that that could be a bit of a pain in the ass, and she's small enough that like it's hard to reach around and do anything. Where the fuck is she? You know what I mean? Like that at least is plausible, but the Becky Lynch doing stuff
Get
to
this
Punk.
cat off my back.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Where do you think they go from here?
I'm sorry, Mr. Brian Hart, master of the sharpshooter. See, here's the thing. If you apply a number of these holes as a shoot and in no way attempt to take care of a son of a bitch that you've got it on, there's some of these holes that once you've got them, even a stronger motherfucker can't get out of. I don't know, just because of the torque that you could legitimately power out of something like that if somebody was sitting all the way out on it or all the way back on it.
And again, we're talking about a sharpshooter.
I've never been in a shoot hula hoop. I've never been in a sharpshooter.
And we're talking a sharpshooter, not an Indian deathlock or something. We're talking a sharpshooter.
Oh no, you get the Indian deathlock, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
That's why they used to put that on the old folks out on a tree out in the woods to kill them.
What?
That was what Gordon Soley would say. Have you never heard that story?
I don't know that story, no.
Oh, goddamn. Folks, the Indian deathlock used to be a finish in wrestling, and there is some, again, element of shoot in it in terms of when you get this hold on, if you didn't want it to be broken, the person that let you put it on would then have a hard time kind of getting out of it, because you tie your leg up or their legs around your leg with the toe hooked and all this shit. But the story in wrestling in the 60s and 70s was that the Indians would take the older, infirm members of their tribe out in the woods and put the Indian deathlock on them, put their legs around a tree in the Indian deathlock so they couldn't escape, and they'd stay in the forest and die, basically. Because they were, trying to make these goddamn Indians out to be big heels. But that was supposedly the thing. This hold was so inescapable that you could just take and put the hold on a person around a tree trunk and they wouldn't be able to get away. So how are they going to be able to get loose when it's your leg in the middle of their legs and you won't let them escape? Are you just humoring me now?
No, I'm listening to this explanation.
Listening intently.
Yes.
I had to teach Alan Iron Eagle. Do you remember him, Joe Gomez?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had to teach him the Indian deathlock. They brought him into WCW. It was one of Ole's hiring all the cheap guys. And he was working in Florida. I guess Joe Gomez, one would indicate he was Hispanic. But they changed his name to Alan Iron Eagle and made him an Indian. Said use the Indian deathlock as a finish. And nobody in the goddamn locker room except me knew the Indian deathlock. So I had to teach the Indian before he went out to win the match with it, how to do the Indian deathlock.
I just saw his name somewhere. It may have been the Observer for some reason. And it mentioned that he was very close with Ric Flair. And I was like, oh, I never knew that.
I think he died. That's why they mentioned him.
Oh. Well, rest in peace.
So now you feel bad, don't you?
Now I feel awful. See,
I led him down I started him on the road to ruin because I hurt him with the Indian deathlock, and it contributed many years later to his death.
All right, well, I guess my point is I don't think Becky Lynch could get Alan Iron Eagle in the sharpshooter either. Is the point of it. But that was the main event of the show, and I guess that's the problem.
We still had more.
There was still more after the match that was the match for this show.
Well, before we get to the match that went on last, all of a sudden, they get a big wide shot of the arena, and we hear bong, the Undertaker's gong. And I'm like, oh, okay, this will be cool. And then that's all we heard of the Undertaker's gong. Then it kicked into that rotten American badass music, and here came the Great Value Undertaker, the motorcycle riding version instead of the dead man version, out on his motorcycle with his do-rag. And he rode to ringside, where it just so happened, Brian, completely by random chance, Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan were sitting in the front row of ringside, totally unaware that this was going to take place. And Undertaker climbed over the rail and took a microphone and sat down next to her and started interviewing her. And they started trying to. It wasn't a comedy routine. Would you term it more? They were trying to do witty repartee or snappy patter back and forth with each other. Would that be kind of the description?
In between some awkward long periods of time where he's just standing in front of her and she's just clapping at him.
Yes.
While he's standing there with the microphone, you're waiting for anything to happen.
Is a little awkward. It wasn't funny. And it was not smooth. And as they did mention, they've been friends for years and years. So one would have thought they could have worked something a little bit better out to fill 45 seconds. But anyway, then he announces, are you ready? The first member of the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame will be none other than Stephanie McMahon. And she was overcome with the emotion to hear this, that she had no idea was coming. She just happened to be sitting there on the front row like she usually does.
They've never announced it in September before, ever. It's WrestleMania, usually in April. Usually in March, we're still trying to guess who the last people are going to be.
They don't call people till Christmas. When I presented for the Rock and Roll Express, it was Christmas week that any of us knew about it. But there is no business reason why, oh my God, I was completely uninterested in the Hall of Fame next year now, but holy shit, now that they've announced Stephanie's going to be in it, it's changed my whole outlook. To announce it 6-7 months in advance to that it's Stephanie, and again, a lot of pony winning going on around here. What do you know who won the pony? I guess what I'm saying is they can't really say that it was a big thing. Like on our WrestlePalooza first ESPN show, we wanted to announce Randy Orton or Steve Austin or a major name past or present, Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, weird timing unless they're going to change the date of the Hall of Fame, which they may have to do unless they're going to start flying legends to Saudi Arabia in a couple of years.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, it's one thing to go to Las Vegas, but you think any of these guys are going to go to Saudi Arabia to get a fucking ring?
And hopefully be able to take it home, but you never really know. You never know.
You might have to take the ring and shove it up their ass.
Look,
to get it home.
There's been a concerted effort. If you like Stephanie McMahon or not, you can't deny it. There's been a concerted effort to babyface her on WWE programming and also give her something to do. There was no demand for a Stephanie McMahon podcast. They hyped the shit out of it. There was no demand for conversations with Stephanie. She just needed something to do. She's been all over the show. We've seen, when I say all over the show, just random appearances like Stephanie McMahon's in the crowd or Stephanie McMahon's here, all presented as like a way to, let's just give her an applause because
it's like they're floating her here and there. You're getting used to seeing her. She's all over the place. Nobody's got any picket signs, so she's one of the good ones. They're whitewashing members of the McMahon family.
Yeah, and she's about to be the first member of the McMahon family next to Vince Sr. in the Hall of Fame. I don't even know if Jess McMahon's in the Hall of Fame. I'd have to check.
I don't think they did.
And he probably shouldn't be if we're talking about wrestling promoters, to be quite honest with you. But it is the WWE Hall of Fame, not the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
But you said Stephanie needs something to do. Why do you need something to do when you got that much fucking money? Who wants more shit to do?
Maybe she doesn't have hobbies. Maybe her whole life has been based around her father and mother's business, that she never developed any skills. Maybe she should take a knitting class.
Boy, in that case, then I'd be running off to a fucking South Pacific island where I could hang out next to the coconut trees, buck-ass naked all day and fucking diddle myself. If I'd have been in that family all these years, just working.
Were they known for taking vacations?
No. Not Vince. I didn't keep track of Linda's comings and goings, but no, it was famous.
Lince.
Vince. That was their name when they teamed up for Tony Khan, Lince. No, Linda might go somewhere. I don't fucking know, but Vince was famous. About 10 days at Christmas when they used to take a break, he would go to his mansion in, where is it, Fort Lauderdale or that part of Florida, the $12 million place that he spent 2 weeks a year in, and he'd make phone calls and do paperwork down there. That was his vacation.
Again, it's an interesting decision doing this here. I mean, I can't imagine she didn't know something was up. I know they tried to play it off like it was just a gigantic surprise. Why was she sitting ringside there as The Undertaker? What did they think The Undertaker was going to do? And Nick Khan came over quickly to give her a hug because obviously he was in on the whole thing.
He was working security over there, too.
But yeah, there's definitely a movement to make Stephanie McMahon an asset of the company and protect her and make her happy.
Well, and for all the things she's done to make all of us happy, it's just a small price to pay.
And to be quite honest, if we're going based on WWE, I'm not saying she's undeserving. Michelle McCool was undeserving. Stephanie McMahon, if we're talking about big stars on WWE TV, for good or for bad,
yeah,
she's deserving of being in their Hall of Fame, absolutely.
And I agree with you on the McCool comparison, and I also agree with you on in the WWE universe. Yes, she is a level of talent. I don't think they needed to introduce it or announce it 6 months ahead of time, and I think they could have done a better job than have Undertaker come out there, and he's not Phil Donahue. I mean, it's the Undertaker. He can't just go and interview random people. So, Stephanie, let me just it's the Undertaker. He's hurting his image when he comes out and acts like a normal person and doesn't have anything interesting to say. That's, the problem.
And by the way, we just got a question on the drive-thru the other day, it must have been the drive-thru. We got a question about, is The Undertaker the biggest stooge of all time? And you said no, and then the next time we see him, he's giving Vince McMahon's daughter a Hall of Fame induction. So I don't know.
Swear to God, how the worms have turned. I said, no, he's not a stooge. He just stood up for business and what was right, but he didn't go around telling on people and just fucking saying, yes, sir, and now, yeah. We got a lot of bad feedback on that one. A lot of fucking people now mad at Undertaker. He's a fucking stooge.
Well, Jim,
speaking of stooges,
there's one more match. I didn't say that, but there's one more match to stooge off here on the show, and hopefully our mouths keep working throughout this review.
Well, they put the WWE title match on last between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, and again, it's the big one. It's the big belt, the world title. They should, as a rule of thumb, put it on last. It just, after the mixed tag, this was not a hot enough issue. And that's another thing. Drew McIntyre is a tremendous heel personality. And he is, I don't know if it's been a year now or a year and a half since he came back and got in a thing with Punk and unveiled this new outlook that he's had and started cutting these brilliant promos. Drew McIntyre is one of my favorite fucking guys in the company. He's awesome. And Cody, of course, has been, whenever they'd get off from around his neck, he's been a great success. It just, the old gray mare ain't what he used to be based on the way they've treated him, but still he's the star and everybody likes him. And both these guys can work, and either their wrestling is tight, nice and snug, a hip lock takeover. Cody's selling is animated. Drew has a heel attitude and body language. They do a stunt every now and then. They'll take a bump over the desk or whatever, but it's not overdone. Their matches are logical, professionally put together. It was not a hot issue that people wanted to react to more than the mixed tag team match was. And that's just because this is not an angle or a program that they've been beaten to death on TV here lately. They needed a title match for the WrestlePalooza. So they had a good match. And again, they did their various shit. there was a spot here, Drew McIntyre ripped the turnbuckle pad off. And then he teased putting Cody into it, but he ended up hitting it. But I swear to it, I didn't see that when I was growing up as a wrestling fan, because all the turnbuckles in the Tennessee territory were foam rubber with duct tape wrapped around. You couldn't take the pad off. Pads cost money. They used foam rubber and duct tape. But goddamn, there's an epidemic of it, isn't there? How many turnbuckle pads have we seen taken off in the last day?
They're now calling it the George Steele position.
Anywho, finally, they ended up on the floor after a number of false finishes and 2 counts and things of that nature. And Drew was going to kick Cody through the front of the desk like he did sometime back, but the referee got in his way and delayed him, and Drew said, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. But by the time he did, he missed Cody, put his foot through the fucking front of the desk and hurt his leg. And then, even though he was able to get back in the ring, he went for the kick, but his leg gave out. And Cody went up top for the big super Cody cutter and then hit the crossroads 1, 2, 3. Without stabbing him in the head with a screwdriver or a pair of scissors, or without a ball peen hammer, without setting him on fire, without a super tombstone pile driver off the top rope through a thumbtack covered table onto the concrete floor. He hit him with a couple of wrestling finishes and beat him. So
it's kind of dry
again
after the previous match, which was the one the fans were really into. And that went a while too.
Yeah.
This felt kind of dry, and I almost thought they may do a title change just because otherwise it kind of felt like the match was going nowhere in a sense.
Well, no, but it would have been crazy to switch the belt on this match because it wasn't the time. It wasn't ready, wasn't built, wasn't meant to be. But they did everything fine. But as you said, and as I said, the mixed tag took the oxygen out. But when you compare this 3-hour and 15-minute show with stars, with a tremendous production, with easily defined roles that everybody's got, and with an issue for almost everything that people could understand, this is why they're there, and the AEW show is why they're there. Because they can't get out of the fucking rec center in Reseda or wherever they all used to do their own pro wrestling orangutan shows and just let everybody have as much fun as they wanted to have. I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the participants. And they don't know how to put a major league production together, or they refuse to try to learn. So this is where we're at. We're being raked over the coals for thousands of dollars per ticket by this evil goddamn multi-billion-dollar conglomeration that's setting the world on fire. And the only hope for poor old downtrodden pro wrestling is an ADD-addled billionaire with very specific mental concerns that thinks about wrestling in the smallest and most outlaw of terms and has no eye for talent. Pick your poison, Brian.
Well, speaking of poison, that was WWE WrestlePalooza.